it's going to be like, I'd encourage you to like sucker punch your client just a little bit more. Everyone, this is Coach Isaac. Isaac, this is everyone. So you're feeling nervous?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's probably normal.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. I hope we'll have some fun. I think you're going to do great, because I've seen what your clients say about you, and what they say about you is that you're great. So I'm sure you'll do fine. And also, I'm not going to go easy on you. So, I think let's kind of put you through your paces.
I'm ready.
Okay. So I'm coming to my first coaching session. Okay. So we don't have to do the whole, boundary spiel and things like that, but we can, so you can skip the, DMs, like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But so take it away, man.
All right. Welcome. Nice to meet you. What do you go by?
You can call me Alok.
Alok. Okay. You can call me Isaac. So how about we start off by talking a bit about what it is that brings you to coaching?
So I saw, like Dr. K's, like I've seen his streams, and, I think that like he's able to help people in like a way that I'm kind of looking for. And so, I was kind of hoping to talk to him, but, I guess that's not possible.
Yeah. So I don't think Dr. K is taking on any new clients as of late. So,
yeah,
but I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what were you looking to get help with?
So I have problems with like confidence and self-esteem. And there are a lot of things that like I know I should do, but it's like hard, like, I kind of feel stuck.
Okay. Yeah. Can you tell me what you mean by feeling stuck?
Well, like, I know that I should be doing like particular things. Like I know I should go to the gym and stuff. Like I know that I need to like get in shape. I'm about 10 to 20 pounds heavier than where I want to be.
Okay.
And so, I need to like work on that kind of stuff.
Gotcha. And can you elaborate a bit on what you mean by confidence?
Well, so I know that like confidence is important, right? So if you like approach people and you're confident, then things go better for you. And so I know like I should be confident, but it's just really hard for me to like be confident. So I'm hoping like, like, can you teach me how to be more confident? Like,
I can't teach you per se, but we can like talk through it and certainly try to understand it. So like, I don't know you yet, So what can you actually share with me like what happens now when you approach people? Because you said if you're confident, it goes better for you. How does it go now?
Well, that's kind of the problem, is that I don't really like approach people, So like I'm a student, I'm a junior. At the beginning I thought that like, if at the beginning I thought like I'm just a freshman and like, I'll figure it out. Like everyone has problems approaching people, but like I'm a junior now. I don't really like go to parties and stuff. I don't really like hang out with other people, and
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is a lot of the trouble you're having is coming from a lack of self-esteem and confidence, and there's a lot of things you should be doing, know you should be doing, but aren't. And so what I'm hearing now is you have trouble like approaching people and doing all these things that you sounds like feel like you should be doing, right?
Yeah.
So what do you end up doing instead of all these things that you should be doing?
I mean, most of the time, so like I do like okay in terms of my classes and stuff, like not great. Like that too, I should be working, I should be spending more time at the library and stuff. But really I just, I do get most of my work done most of the time, but it's basically that. And then like I spend time, in my dorm room. when I'm not doing that. Like I spend some time gaming and stuff like that. Spend a lot of time on YouTube. I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Mhm.
You know.
Yeah. So might sound like a silly question and you don't have to know the answer, but what gets in the way of you going out and like meeting people or working out, trying to lose weight and all this stuff?
Well, I mean, I think that's what I was kind of saying about like the confidence thing. Like I just don't, it's really hard for me to like do that. I don't know like where to start.
Sure, yeah. So, and when you say confidence, right? I asked earlier. Um, you're talking about how you like view yourself, right?
I guess so. What do you mean by that?
Well, actually, I should just ask you because I'm forgetting now. But what do you mean when you say confidence?
Well, just like, confident people can do things, right? And like if I'm confident, I'll be able to like go up to someone and like introduce myself. If there's for example, like a girl in one of my classes, and I'd love to get to know her a little bit better, but it's just really hard. Like I'm pretty sure she's got a boyfriend. She's got to have a boyfriend. And she's like awesome and she's funny and we're like into a lot of the same things and she's like super cute. But it's just like I just can't, like I really like there's a part of me that wants to, but I also know like there's no point, right? Because she's got a boyfriend. So, but like, there's a part of me that sometimes wonders like, what if she doesn't?
Okay. So, yeah, so it sounds like confidence is like a prerequisite to doing all these things that you want to do. Like there's a threshold and you're not there yet, right? Um, and it sounds like you're actually pretty torn on wanting to go up to this girl. Like on the one hand, it's pointless because she probably has a boyfriend, but there's a tiny part of you that's like, well, what if, right?
Yeah. I mean, I like, I'm pretty sure, but I also don't like technically know, like I've never asked her.
Right. So it seems like low odds.
Yeah. And
Right.
so that's another big thing is, if something has like a low likelihood of success, like logically, I just know it's not a good use of my time.
Sure, yeah. Um, and can you around when would you say how long have you been struggling with this?
I mean, honestly, it feels like in a sense my whole life. Like I've never really, and I think that's kind of part of the problem is that, what I realized is that like when I was a freshman, so I've been watching a lot of like dr.k streams and stuff, and I
Mhm.
realized that, by the time freshman year rolled around, like the people who made friends were the ones who like knew how to talk to people. But I kind of missed that boat in high school, right? So I didn't really know how to talk to people in high school. And so like every year that goes by, it's like it's becoming like later and later. And, I'm just not sure how to find that confidence now.
Right. So it seems like everyone else like had some internal idea as to how to like do these social things and like hit these milestones, and then you didn't hit it when everyone else did, and since then it's kind of like you've been trying to catch up but feeling stuck, right?
Yeah. Cause like, logically there's no way that I can, go back and do it over. If I could, I would.
Sure, yeah. So do you remember how you felt at that time when everyone else seemed to be making friends and you weren't?
I mean, I've always been like pretty good at controlling my emotions. So I kind of knew that, like I was okay. I was okay with it. Like I sort of see now that it was sort of a problem, but back then it wasn't really like, you know, I wasn't going to be like some edgelord.
Sure, yeah. What do you mean when you say controlling your emotions? How do you control it?
Well, so I've noticed that a lot of people are, they're not really in control of their emotions. So they'll do things like, they can't control it. So they'll like break down and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Whereas I've always been like really good. Like I have I took an IQ test and I'm like high up on the IQ scale. I also took a EQ test from Harvard Business Review and I'm high on that as well. So I've
Mhm.
got like, a really good understanding. I know Dr. K emphasizes it a lot too. So I'm like
Yeah,
good at
so
keeping them controlled.
yeah, so it sounds like you're really on top of yourself, right?
Yeah.
Emotionally. So what emotions are you controlling exactly? Once.
Wow, that is a really good question. I'd say mostly like the lack of confidence is what I'm controlling, I guess. No, I'm not quite sure. That sort of doesn't
Sure, yeah.
logically make sense.
How so?
Well, because like if I could control my lack of confidence, like emotionally, then I could do the things that, you know, I should say I can do. But that's what it sort of feels like. I mean, I feel like I'm in control, but the main thing is like the lack of confidence.
Right. So when you say control, so you were comparing to like people that have like breakdowns and stuff, right? So it sounds like you don't let the emotion get the best of you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So
Does that mean the emotion still comes up and then you control it?
well, yeah, that's sort of what I mean is like, I don't let it get the best of me. So like, I can control it. So, my frontal lobe is in control of my emotional circuitry.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't, just like you said, like it doesn't get the best of me.
Okay. Yeah, and that, like what you said was interesting is that it seems like if you were controlling it, then you know it wouldn't be stopping you from doing all these things you want to do.
Yeah, I get that. I'm not quite sure. Because I do definitely feel in control of my emotions, but I sort of like acknowledge that, if I were in your shoes, I would be thinking like, oh, this guy, like if he was better at controlling his emotions, he like probably wouldn't have all these problems.
Sure, yeah. How are you feeling as we're talking about it?
Well, I kind of feel like, I imagine like on some levels, I'm like actually way better than your average client, but I imagine you're maybe thinking that I'm maybe not as, with it as some of your other clients are. Like, how would you say I rank compared to like some of the other people you work with?
Um, what makes you curious about the other people I work with?
I don't know. I'm just curious about it. Like I want to, like where do I fit in compared to like the average person who comes here?
Yeah, what would it mean if you were like below average or above average uh, for the people that come in and see me?
Well, I guess what I'm trying to figure out is like whether this is a good fit, So like I'm a big fan of like Dr.K and the streams and stuff, but like, I'm just trying to figure out if this is like if this kind of stuff is like stuff that you can help me with or, or not kind of thing, So I'm kind of curious about, how other people are.
Yeah, makes sense. Before I attempt to answer that though, what is it about the streams that you like?
Well, so I like that, people seem to have like roadblocks and so like they kind of overcome those roadblocks. And then the other thing is there are a couple of streams where like I can see at the end that people are like feeling more confident. And so I'm hoping that like by talking to you, like at the end of this, like I'll feel more confident, right? Go through that process of building that confidence.
Right, yeah. And then with that you would be able to go and like start losing weight and start talking to people and all this stuff, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, makes sense. Um I think I'm still a little stuck on like this piece about controlling the emotions, right? Like that seems like there's still something to figure out there.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, I can see that. So how do we figure it out?
It's a good question. Let me think for a second. Can you share, is there anything from streams in particular that's resonated with you? Like particular interviews or insights?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are. I'm kind of curious though, like, I mean, do you think that this is something that you could help me with, or are you kind of thinking, like that maybe, like, this is not going to work out?
I don't know. I mean, I think we've been talking for a total of, I don't know, like 15, 20 minutes. I think I don't know enough about you yet to see like where this is going to go. What do you think about that though?
I don't know. I sometimes feel like I'm not able to give you like the best answers, so I'm a little bit worried that like you were kind of saying about the control stuff, like I see where you're coming from, like I should be able to give you a better answer about that. And so one of the things that I'm kind of concerned about is that on stream it's like people like seem to understand their problems really well, but I'm not so sure that I'm going to you seem actually like super smart and stuff like that too. But I'm just a little bit worried that like I may not be able to give you kind of the answers that you need to help me.
And so what if I told you that everything you've told me so far has been immensely helpful?
Well, I mean, like, it's kind of your job to say that, right?
Is
Like,
it?
what are you going to do? Like, tell me, like, everything you've told me is idiotic and a waste of our time?
Fair, right? Like, you can't be entirely sure if I'm going to be honest with you about the quality of your answers. Makes sense. And I can see where you're coming from in regards of like, yeah, when you watch the streams, it's like Dr. K is like talking to these people and their like answers, it seems like they're like getting somewhere. And right now we're like stuck on this one piece and can't seem to get past that. Right.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Well, I'm curious, what's happened in the past when you've tried to confront this confidence issue?
Well, like, I mean, something or other, like, kind of doesn't work out. And usually, like, I tend to screw things up. Like, I start out really strong and I know I'm capable of doing it. It's just when it comes to like the implementation phase. So like, I listen to a lot of podcasts and stuff, and there's this one guy who was talking about reading one book every day. So I started doing that because I can handle that, and so I read like one book a day, and so I've learned a lot about confidence and psychology and things like that. But when it comes to the actual like implementation phase, I think it's just something falls apart. Like I just kind of like basically drop the ball, So it's like I've got all the pieces to fix my problem, but like something just, I'm not sure what happens exactly.
Yeah. What's the implementation phase?
So like I was, I'll listen to like TRP podcasts and stuff like that. I've taken a couple of classes on like pickup and that sort of thing. And then, I understand the theory really well, but when it actually comes to like approaching women, like either I kind of screw it up or it doesn't really work, or like, it just doesn't happen the way that, people describe in the books.
Right. I see what you're saying now. So you've got a ton of information at your disposal. You read a lot, like you understand these things intellectually, and then you go to try to act, and then it's like something screws up. Something doesn't happen. Right?
Basically me, right? Because like if the information's right and the theory's right, and it doesn't work out, like what's the common variable?
Sure, yeah. So what do you mean that it's basically you? Like what is you here?
Well, like me, like, it sort of doesn't matter. Like, I can try, you know, going to a party and like, having a couple of drinks. And then there's also like, everyone's been drinking. So it's like everything should be easier socially, but like that doesn't really work out for me. Like,
Hmm.
there may be girls in my class and stuff. And like, I've got like a reason to talk to them, right? So like one of the things that I read is like anytime you're approaching a girl, like you should have some reason to talk to them.
Okay.
And so I've got that, right? So I've got like I'm going to ask this girl like, hey, do you want to study for this test together or whatever? And then there was one girl that, for example, was wearing like a t-shirt for an anime that I really liked. And so I thought that would be like kind of an in, but it just didn't. And so like, what's the common element? Like it's me, right? So I'm not able to do, what I'm supposed to be able to do.
Yeah, sounds like there's some core thing here that's outside of the practical knowledge, the intellect. That is like what you're describing as you, and like fundamentally there's something that you like that can't be done here.
Well,
Right?
I mean, that's why I'm coming here. Cause like, this is
Yeah.
basically like, I'm 21 years old. Like this is my like last chance.
What makes you say it's your last chance?
Well, like, most people, they like date and stuff like in college. And like once college ends, like, you know, it's going to be hard. And then like, if I have no experience or anything like that, like, you know,
Yeah,
like
so
when,
go
when a
ahead.
girl asks me like how many people I've been with and I say 0, like that doesn't, you know, it's not going to go well, bro.
Right, yeah. So sounds like there's another boat here that you're worried about missing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
That's, yeah.
Can you clarify for me, like, so there's you and like the information are like two different things, right? So like you having all that information doesn't translate into the things you want to do being done, right?
Yeah.
So what makes you keep like reading?
I don't know. I mean, I guess because like reading's like a good thing, right? Like I'm interested in growth and stuff.
So does reading help you grow?
I mean, yeah, I guess so, right? I mean, what, isn't that why people read? So you
I
can
don't
like
know.
benefit from like other people's knowledge and like grow.
Do you feel like you've grown from reading?
I mean, I feel like I understand a lot more stuff.
And how has understanding stuff impacted you?
Well, I mean, that's kind of the problem, right? Is it's like not translating. So
Right.
I guess I mean, I guess you could make the argument that that's not actually growth, which is interesting. I never really thought about it that way.
Yeah, so what do you think about that? That it seems like you keep on reading and trying to understand things on an intellectual level and like about all these things that you want to do with your life, but that doesn't seem to change anything. Like it seems like you know more and you understand like the theory behind a lot of things, but the things you want to do or get done don't seem to be happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's actually a really good like that. That's kind of like why I'm stuck because I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. Like what else could I do?
Other than read and continue to understand.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's sort of, you know, I've tried it all, like, you know, so it's sort of, I've been working at this for a while, and I'm a pretty smart guy, so like I know I've read a lot of stuff, you know, so it's
Right.
sort of.
Yeah, I mean, so like on the one hand, it sounds like you feel like you've tried a lot of stuff and everything out there, but there's things that haven't been done, right?
Yeah, like what do you mean?
Well, earlier, remember when I asked, like, what happens when you try to approach people to talk to them, right? Your
Yeah,
response, I believe, was that doesn't really happen,
yeah. I mean, that's, yeah.
right? So the actually, let's back up a little bit because I'm still caught up on the piece about like the learning, the reading and stuff. So how does it feel when you read stuff about like talking to people or like building relationships, like losing weight, exercising, all that stuff?
I feel like, you know, this is really going to help me, right? Like this is what I like, because I gotta do something about it, you know.
Yeah.
And so I'm very growth oriented.
Mhm.
So when I see a problem, I try to take like definitive action.
Mhm.
And so I'll take definitive action. You know, I'll do research. I'll, you know, like look at like different reviews and stuff for different books and see like what's worked for other people, and then like I'll take definitive action and
What's
get
the definitive action here?
like finding the right high quality research. And then so I'll read like the books and stuff. Like I've spent probably about $2,000 or $3,000 on different kinds of like social and behavioral and like dating courses and things like that. You know, so I
So
can equip myself to be like ready to, you know.
yes, so sounds like it's a pretty good feeling, right? Because it feels like you're growing, like you're moving towards the things you want.
Yeah, you know, I mean, there's also like, I'm starting to lose a little bit of confidence there too, because like, you know, because there's a part of me that logically says like it hasn't worked, so I'm not quite sure, and that's sort of what makes me feel stuck, and that's actually why I signed up for this.
Mhm. Which part are you losing a little bit of confidence on?
Just that, you know, you could like kind of like what you're saying is like you're kind of saying that like reading is a waste of my time, right?
Did I?
I mean, that's what you're saying, right? Like you're not saying it plain out, but you're kind of saying like reading's like a waste of my time and I'm like not approaching the problem correctly. And that what I just need to do is like just like talk to girls.
Yeah, I mean, so what I've been hearing from you is that, and what I'm trying to unpack and understand is that the like you can like you're this really smart dude, right? Like you understand a lot, like you read a lot, all this stuff. You have all this information at your disposal. Yet there's some intermediate step between like the information, all that stuff, and like the things you want in your life, right? So
Yeah.
the way I'm kind of hearing it is that there's more to the like puzzle here than just into the information.
Yeah. I mean, I think so.
Yeah, so it seems like we want to try to figure out what that is.
Yeah. Aren't you saying that that's me?
You said that was you.
Well, like, don't you think I mean, like, that's logical, right? Like, I'm the commented, like, I'm at the end of the day, I'm reading 1,000 books and I'm not actually like talking to any girls.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. I don't know if I necessarily agree that it's like you.
What else could it be? Like, the phases
Well,
of the
so
moon?
part of the issue here, right, is, you know, if we want to like take a step back and look at the whole picture here, is that like like when we say it's like the problem is like you, that doesn't have like a clear, I don't have a clear idea of what that actually means or is, right? Like it sounds like the way we're talking about makes it feel like some like core component, like your essence or something that is unlike changeable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think you like that was pretty good. I think you kind of figured it out, right? Like there's something. It's like a. It's good. I can.
It,
I can. Yeah.
what do you mean it's good?
Like that's my problem. Like that's what I need to change. Is like because something's like busted. Like fundamentally.
Something's busted or you're busted?
Well, like that. I mean, it's got to be me, right? Because I'm telling you, like I've got a high IQ. I've got a high EQ. I read a lot. I'm growth oriented. And so like I've got all of these advantages and I really should not be having these problems.
Are all those things not part of you as well?
Well, yeah, but I mean those things are like that's kind of what I'm saying is I want to fix that thing that's like kind of screwed up, right?
Yeah. So let me think for a sec.
Sorry, just lagged.
Oh.
You're fine.
When did you start believing that like you were the fundamental problem here?
I mean, I always knew that things were kind of off, like ever since I was a kid. You know, like I got made fun of a lot growing up. You know, like, and I remember like complaining to my parents about it, and my dad was like, "That's just life," you know, and sort of like if the kids treat you a particular way, it's because of like so he was like big into taking control of your life. He was a motivational speaker actually and a pastor, and so he was like, you know, he explained to me that if some, you know, you can whine about what your situation is or you can do something about it. And so he kind of explained to me that like, you know, if the kids are making fun of you, like that's something that you can, you know, it's in your control to change that. So how you respond to that, what they say, you know, it's kind of like you got to sort of man up and deal with that, right? Like, what are you going to do? Like cry about it?
Yeah. So it sounds like your dad kind of taught you that it's like your responsibility and it's your job to fix the things that like other kids are like bullying you for, right?
Yeah. I mean, so he was also like, when my parents got divorced, he was kind of explaining to me that, you know, when I was at my mom's place, like I would have to be the man of the house,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that like I had to like take care of things. You know, that's like,
Yeah. What was it like hearing all of that as a kid?
I mean, I think it really helped me like understand that, you know, it was like really empowering because like I started to like really realize that like I'm in control of my destiny, you know,
Hmm.
and that you can't control other people's actions. So you have to like behave in a particular way so that like they don't treat you a particular way. Like no one's going to give you a free pass in life.
Yeah. And so can you tell me more about the bullying? Like what happened when your dad taught you all of that?
Well, I mean, so you know, this is kind of what I was saying is like, you know, that's true, right? So he was like thousands of people looked up to him. You know, when he taught, the room was absolutely packed,
Mm-hmm.
and he, you know, his support and his teach helped so many people. And there was something that where, you know, like I would try to do what he told me to do, but like it never worked out the same way. Right. So I stood up to the bullies and they just like bullied me worse. And like I couldn't get them to change.
So that was the time you were able to take action, right?
Yeah.
And what ended up happening?
I mean, I didn't do it well enough, right? So like I was supposed to really like be confident and stuff like that and stand up to them. And like, I guess they like knew on some level that it was sort of like a game of chicken, I guess, where, like I'm kind of getting up in their face and they're getting up in my face, but like they knew they were really confident and I wasn't. So I kind of backed down first and they just like, and then they knew I was a pussy. So then it was like game over.
Okay. Yeah, so it sounds like you stopped like trying to like face them, right?
Yeah.
And then what was it like for you after you stopped?
I mean, it wasn't pretty,
Yeah.
like, because that's the thing, right? So when you look at research on like alpha wolves and beta wolves and things like that, like once there's a dominant, once there's a dominance hierarchy and it's been exerted, like you just stay at the bottom. Sorry, Ask, you're doing great.
Yeah, so you've been stuck at the bottom ever since.
Yeah. Nice. That's what it feels like, yeah. And
yeah.
That's the thing, right? So I just don't know how to get back to the top.
Sure. So does your dad's like teaching no longer apply, or how does that fit in now?
Well, I mean, I think it still applies, right? Because like, the world is what you make of it. But to be honest, it's been a while since I've seen my dad. I'm not, so I haven't like really talked to him much about this stuff.
Can you tell me a bit more about that? Your relationship with your dad?
Well, so what happened? I mean, so basically, what happened is like they got divorced. I think I was like 9 at the time, and then, like I was saying, like he's like a really successful like motivational speaker, and so there were like tons of people coming to him and things like that, and so he like his like career really like like really resonated with a lot of people and really picked up. And then sort of like he started traveling and giving talks and stuff like that. And then over time, like actually my mom just took full custody. And then at some point, I think he got remarried. And he's got 2 other kids now. And so we're not really in touch as much.
Okay. And how do you feel about that?
I mean, on the one hand, it's not great. On the other hand, like I don't blame him, right? Because, life is what you make of it. And he had a good opportunity and he seized it. And he like built a really good life for himself. Mm-hmm. And so that's sort of like what I need to do with my life.
Sure, yeah. So I'm going to ask the question again. How do you feel about your dad kind of going and pursuing this other life and no longer interacting with you very much?
I mean, that's just the way of the world. Right? It's like, there's a dominance hierarchy and he's at the top. So he's going to, He's a dominant figure.
Okay, so remember earlier when we were talking about how you're pretty in control of your emotions?
Yeah.
Right? So are there emotions here that you're like in control of?
Yeah, I mean, sort of.
How so?
Well, I mean, I just feel kind of weird, like right now. Like, I don't know why we're talking about this. I don't know how, it just feels like we're wasting time.
Okay.
Like, it just feels weird.
What do you mean by weird? What does weird mean?
I don't know. It just feels like, I don't know why you're asking me like all these questions. Like, I feel like you're trying to get something out of me.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah. Well, what does it feel like I'm trying to get out of you?
I don't know, that like you're gonna say like my dad has like abandoned me and so like I'm not confident or something like that.
What makes you think I was thinking that or was trying to
Well,
get
I
at
mean
that?
that's sort of like what the story sort of implies, right? Like here he is and he's got like shiny new wife and shiny new kids and there's like me and mom and
Mm-hmm.
like I've read a lot of textbooks on psychology. Like I know how it works.
Right. And does that have any? Do you think any of that applies to you?
I mean, theoretically, yes. Like actually, like I don't know.
And so, in theory, what effect would all that have on you?
I mean, I'd probably have like problems with like mentor figures or like male figures or things like that, right? I could project a lot. Um, you know, I would probably have some kind of like abandonment insecurity or something like that.
And you're not sure if any of that applies to you?
Well, I mean, I don't know if how I'm supposed to be afraid of abandoning if I can't get into a relationship to begin with.
Do you think that can have any impact on getting into a relationship?
I mean, I guess like I guess it could, you know, like I guess if I was afraid of it being abandoned, like it would make it, hard for me to like trust people and things like that.
Do you have problem? Do you have problems trusting people?
I mean, that's what I'm sort of saying is that, like I can't get to that point with people to begin with.
Right. Um. Yeah. So it sounds like what's happening is, or at least as we're talking, like we're talking a lot about a lot of stuff that could theoretically apply to you, but it doesn't seem like things are quite landing with you. Like a lot of things are, I guess it could be right, but it doesn't seem like you really feel like they apply to you. Correct me if I'm wrong, though.
Yeah, I mean, I got to be honest now that I'm really thinking about it, like I do wonder if some of this stuff applies to me. Um, you know, I I I think it's worth thinking about. Like, I think a lot of what you're saying could make sense. Um, I mean, I think it sort of makes sense that, if my dad like abandoned me or whatever, like I could have confidence issues or things like that. Mm-hmm. I guess I had never really thought about, I'd always thought like the abandonment issue like wasn't a thing because, you know, once I thought it would like, that would like manifest if I was like in a relationship. So, but I never really get there to begin with. I also wonder a little bit about, you know, what you're kind of saying about controlling emotions and sort of like this black box of like, what is me?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it feels like there's like a black box, right? And we don't know like what's in that black box. But I think that that's like the problem.
That we don't know what's in the black box.
Yeah, or that the black box is like why stuff doesn't work out the way it's supposed to.
Ah, okay. Yeah, and then to add on to that, do you remember earlier when we were talking about like this core sort of fundamental thing?
Yeah.
Right? It sounds like some of these things that you've sort of talked about in theory, like the like the black box that you mentioned, and like this fundamental like you like problem with you that's factoring into the equation here and not allowing for the stuff that you want to get done in your life, has some connection to this like I've heard like trust issues, abandonment, things like that, right?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
So yeah, does it feel like that stuff is like the missing link here?
I mean, sort of. Like, I can see how it's sort of related, but like I'm kind of saying, like, what I need to work on is like the approach, you know? Like, I think all that stuff probably comes afterward.
What makes you think it comes afterward and not?
Well, because it like applies to relationships, like logically, right?
Sure.
Like, you can't get abandoned if you're single.
Yeah, exactly, right?
What do you mean by that?
You can't so let me back up a bit.
Nope, don't back. Just go.
Yeah, so you're saying there are like abandonment issues that could affect your ability to like trust people in a relationship, right?
Yeah.
But you feel like that can only happen once you're already in a relationship, right?
Yeah.
Is
Obviously.
it well, what makes you say obviously?
Well, like, because you can't get abandoned if you're single.
Right. So is it possible though that the those like issues with abandonment and not trusting people are what keeps you single?
What do you mean by that?
Right, because you have trouble, and we haven't really broken down like the like play by play of like what happens in your head and emotionally when you like think about going and talking to people. But like that's part of the equation, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it seems like that's one of the things that could prevent you from going and talking to people. What do you
Wait,
think?
are you saying that like it's hard for me to like approach people because if I'm single, I never have to worry about abandonment?
Yeah, I'm asking like what you think about that idea, if you feel like it could be
I mean, I've never
applicable.
thought about it that way, but it's kind of interesting.
What's interesting about
Just that, you know, I'd always thought that it like, so, you know, Dr. K talks about like protective mechanisms. And I'd never sort of thought about like the anxiety that I feel like, and what makes it like hard for me to talk to girls is being like, you know, because I'm sort of like not playing the game, right? So if I'm not playing the game, like I can't lose.
Yeah. Can you elaborate on the anxiety that you feel?
Well, just that like, you know, because like what if she says no, right? Then I'm going to look like a dumbass. And she's probably going to say no because I don't know how to talk to her. So it's sort of like, there's no point in trying.
And so what are you referring to when you say anxiety? What makes you call that anxiety?
So Isaac, let's pause here, right? Because we're at 50 minutes. So like, why don't you try to formulate the client? So like, to wrap up, right? So like, think about this as, you don't know if he's going to come next week or not, right? Yeah. So what are you going to say to him in the last 5 minutes? So I'd try to formulate a little bit more just because people are watching. So I'd say like for the last, 5 minutes, like try to explain to this person, like what you think could be going on. And
okay.
What's your understanding of them and maybe even how to move forward.
Yeah. So like the presentation of like the issues I've heard are that you have trouble doing all these things that you want to do, right? And you understand them all very like intellectually on an abstract like idea level, but then there's trouble like acting, right? And just towards the end there, we're getting into like the emotions that play into things, right? And so it sounded like there was some stuff from childhood, like with his dad and stuff, that taught him like to not act. Like with the bullies, like he tried to go and act, tried to go and act, and then that didn't work out, and it sounds like some like kind of like learned hopelessness type stuff, right? So like there was how I'm understanding it is that there's like hopelessness baked in early on, and that's like a core emotional component that's preventing action in the present, right?
Great. I thought you did a fantastic. So for what it's worth, I didn't have that in my mind when we started off.
Okay, I didn't think so.
And I think you just kind of uncovered it, and I kind of made up random answers as we were going along. But I thought you did a fantastic job, especially like, I was not easy. So I imagine that I was being purposely like more difficult to deal with than most of our actual clients.
Yeah, you knew exactly what makes someone difficult.
And you did fantastic, man. You did really good. So yeah. I usually people are, like, we get to stuff way easier than that, but
yeah, I'm curious, where do you think were areas to like harp on, or that I should have harped on more, or like backed off earlier, if any?
So I think you did a good job in general because I was trying to be difficult, right? Like I was trying, like I was fighting you for like each fucking useful answer. I was going into litanies that was just a waste of your time, right? Yeah. And so, so you did a really good job. I also like challenged you, like fucking tried to trap you, right? Asked you challenging questions. How do I compare to your, like all discussions that are like a waste of everyone's time. And you were a nice slippery fish and got to where you needed to go. So I thought you did really good. And I was like actively trying to sabotage this coaching session.
Yeah.
So I think you did really good there. I think a couple of things that I would encourage you to do is, this is just in general, especially for like the more veteran coaches like yourself, I would encourage y'all to like share more thoughts.
Okay.
So I think you were asking a lot of good open-ended questions and stuff like that. But I would, especially if there's someone who's alexithymic, which I'm pretty sure you figured out, right? So like once you know that they're alexithymic, like asking open-ended questions about emotions is going to be sort of, you may just like, it'll make the session feel unproductive. So I think when you kind of got to the dad story and things like that, like if you'd kept asking, there would have been like other situations where I tried to fix my life and like it didn't work out for me. You could ask me about my mom and there would have been stuff there, right? So there's like you kind of said, learned hopelessness early on. This whole thing of like, it's not worth trying because I'm going to fail. So I would also ask, I would say, share more of what you think. Okay. So you did a good job of sort of saying I'm hearing, but I felt like there was like, you could just formulate a little bit or like give me something. You were just encapsulating what I was saying, but like you could say, if you're detecting that learned hopelessness, I would say something like, so I'm hearing that sometimes it's not even worth trying because the chances of likelihood are low, right?
Yeah.
And then I would kind of laugh and say, well, no wonder you're stuck, because it's not worth trying. Like that's like, it's just a tiny little, like you can connect those dots a little bit, because I think so I just share that, right? And you got to be careful. You have to look at how they respond to that. They may take it offense, they may be offended and things. So I think you were really gentle, which you needed to be. But I think the big feedback for all y'all veteran coaches is y'all understand way more than you let on with the clients.
So, yeah, I guess one concern I had was like playing into like the over intellectualizing and like presenting like ideas and stuff that he's like I think someone like this would really latch onto and like try to run with, which may or may not be counterintuitive or counterproductive.
No, so that's right. So if you had done that, I would have taken you for an intellectual ride. So there's a big difference between explaining in a complicated way the theory of how this person's mind works, because then you're fucked, because he's going to like debate with you and all that kind of stuff. So, but there's a difference between that kind of long explanation and an affectively charged, emotionally charged little statement that you tack on. Right?
Okay.
Right? So there's like a difference between saying, hey, like, oh, you have like a learned hopelessness, and learned hopelessness makes it hard for you to blah, blah, blah. Like, don't worry about that. It's like, oh, so like, it's not worth trying because chances are you're going to fail. Well, no wonder you don't ever ask anyone out. Right? You can't intellectually engage with that, but it's going to be like, I'd encourage you to like sucker punch your client just a little bit more. I know it's kind of weird, but just let them have it. Like, be authentic with them. If you really see a problem, it's like, yeah, I can see that, you're kind of paralyzed because it seems like trying is a waste of your time and you're going to fail anyway. So why bother? No wonder it's hard for you. Right? So you can formulate a little bit and just let them have it a little bit more, especially with people who are like hyper intellectualized. Like a good emotionally charged like statement that's kind of like a punch to the gut. You got to be careful. So I'm glad you were gentle, but then you'll see affectively how they respond, right? You do a tiny little one. You can always apologize if they're offended.
Okay. Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah.
Trust yourselves more. You guys are good.
Yeah, I was really excited towards the end when you finally used an emotion, like you said, anxiety.
Yeah. So that's where, if I would, from a time management standpoint, I would open that up next time, because you were doing really good on sort of like the learned hopelessness and the stuckness, and pointing out to him that there's like, you could also explore what it feels like to be like fundamentally busted, because that will get emotions, that'll get affect. Like if you ask him, like, do you feel like no matter what you do, you're going to just be screwed no matter what? And that despite, because it's kind of, if you think about, how broken this person must feel, the more books he reads and the more money he spends on all these solutions that work for other people, and if it doesn't work, what does that mean about how broken he is?
Yeah.
Can you articulate for the stream? I know I'm putting you on the spot.
Repeat the question.
So if I do a lot of, I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but so if I read a lot of books and it still doesn't work, what does that mean about how busted I am?
Even more busted.
Exactly. Right?
Yeah.
So what's happening with this guy is the more that he tries, the more broken he feels. And the more he invests in fixing his life, and the less his life, because you figured it out early on, that you even pointed out. So that's something that I didn't give it to you, but over time, you actually won a lot of points there when you were like, it sounds like you're reading a lot, but it doesn't fucking help. Right? So that's actually a huge win in the session, which over time, so when we see behavioral change in our clients, those kinds of things, the light bulb doesn't go off then, but like, you've teed him up to act more, experiment more, and read less with that thing. Even though I'm not going to say it to you, because they're not going to realize it in the moment. But we like move their, this is why like 6 weeks in, 7 weeks, 8 weeks in, clients just start changing, right? They start like behaving differently. They break out of their old patterns. And it's not like they have this moment of like light bulb and then they wake up the next day. It's like a slow chipping away at their like conceptions about the world that allows them to act in a new way. So that was really good.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. Good job, man. Really
Thanks.
Good job.
That was brutal.
Yeah, I know. I wasn't easy on you, but I thought you did really, really good. And I think you also showcased, despite the fact that it was like artificial and hard, and I couldn't help but break character a couple of times. I think that for anyone that was watching, Isaac is actually far smoother and even better than what y'all saw here today. So good job, man. Any questions for me and anything you want to share about this experience?
Yeah, actually, maybe you could talk a little bit about how people should like interpret like what they saw here, and like how this session, this role playing ought to factor into their decision to get coaching or not to get coaching, because I imagine a lot of people are using it like that.
Yeah. So the first thing is that the first thing that I think we wanted to kind of showcase is just how good y'all are. So like a lot of people think that the understanding of the mind that we showcase on stream or that I share with people is like only my own. But and y'all aren't. I also trapped you, tossed you a landmine early on in terms of like, oh, or like when do I get to talk to Dr. K or whatever. So I think the cool thing is that what we do on stream can be taught, and I think Isaac, you've understood it really well because you figured this client out like relatively quickly. And for those of you that are, curious, like we get these kinds of clients a lot. Clients who hyper intellectualize, clients who aren't in touch with their emotions, clients who, despite their best efforts, remain stuck. So I tried to tap into a lot of different things that we see. So I think the other thing to recognize from this role play is that, first of all, it's not as awkward or difficult as it's actually like a lot smoother when you're actually talking to a person. Whereas I was actively trying to make Isaac's life harder, and I think Isaac works really well with a lot of our clients, and that's because their clients aren't trying to make his life difficult. The next thing to kind of take away is that I think it's a good example of like there isn't necessarily emotional catharsis, but that doesn't mean that there isn't change, and that change sort of happens. Like, I don't know if you guys could kind of tell, but there were some statements that I made where like Isaac pointed out to me like how my thinking was flawed. Like reading doesn't actually help, that there's something fundamental broken in me. And that tees us up for exploring, okay, how do you feel fundamentally broken? Are you actually fundamentally broken? Because no amount of books that I read will ever give me an opportunity to understand how I myself was shattered by like whatever experiences I grew up with. Right. So, and as the problem is that this person is looking for answers from like external sources instead of understanding themselves. And as I start to understand myself, like the anxiety will get better. I'll be able to act more, whatever, like you'll figure yourself out. I'll stop reading books and spend maybe more time like meditating or whatever. So I think that like the key thing is that, this is in a sense a good example of like showing, how a coach can, even with a really difficult client, like unpack things relatively easily and start the process of changing the way that they view the world and understand themselves, which is really everything that coaching is about. So that's what I'd say people should take away.